sometimes those engines are turbine engines, they don't have propellers, but the engine pushes the plane forward, and the plane gets faster and faster and faster and faster. And every airplane has a certain speed that when it reaches that speed, we know that the wings can carry the airplane, and then we take off. So that's how airplanes fly. Controlling an airplane, once it's in the air, it's pretty easy, because those things right here, they're called yokes. Okay? The yoke, if you pull on it, the plane goes up. If you push on it, the plane goes down. If you go to the left, the plane goes to the left. If you go to the right, the plane goes to the right. And then you have the power, and you have a bunch of other stuff, but pretty much when the plane is flying, any of you guys in here can fly the plane. I'll prove that to you here in a minute too.
Explain to them how they taxi. Because it's not like a car.
That's right. So my friend brought up a good point. On the ground, those yokes, they don't work. You control the plane with your feet, with the pedals. Okay? Those are called the rudders, and I'll tell you what they do in a minute. If you want to turn right, you push this one. If you want to turn left, you push this one. And if you want to stop, you push the tip of those pedals at the same time, and then the plane stops. All the planes are like that. So when you're taxiing on the ground, they call it taxiing. If you turn the yoke left or right, it's not going to make a difference. The plane is going to go straight. But you can control it with the rudders. Okay? A lot of times, when I fly my friends for the first time, I play a joke on them. I tell them, start controlling the plane, and they use the yoke, and I follow them with the rudder. I follow their movements, and then before we turn right, I say turn right, and they turn the yoke to the right, but I turn to the left, and they can't understand what happened. That's because you don't control the plane with the yoke, you control it with the rudder. Okay, so real quick, this is the plane. This is a small, simple airplane, but all airplanes fly the same. When the pilot turns the yoke to the left, what happens is this aileron goes down, and this aileron here, the green part, is called an aileron. It goes up. So now the wind is pushing this wing up, and it's pushing this wing down, and the plane goes like this, and it turns left. If the pilot wants to go to the right, then this aileron goes up, and this aileron goes down. So now the wind is pushing this wing up and this wing down, and the plane goes like this, and it turns to the right. Okay? If the pilot wants to go up, the pilot can push on the pull on the yoke. When the pilot pulls on the yoke, those elevators, they go up. And when the elevator goes up, the wind starts pushing that whole tail down, so the plane goes up. When the pilot wants to go down, he pushes the yoke down, and then those elevators, they go down, and then the air is pushing them up, so the plane, the tail goes up, and the nose goes down, and the plane goes down. Okay? Pretty easy. We'll talk to you. For airplanes, you know, airplanes need airports to take off and land, right? The airports, all airports, have at least one runway. The runway is where the plane takes off and lands. This is it. It's got a number on it, so the pilots know they're landing on the right runway. When the air traffic controllers tell the pilots if there's more than one runway, land on runway 14 or 24. And this number also tells the pilot the direction that they're flying in to land, so they don't make any mistakes. This is called the taxiway. This is how the planes taxi to come to the runway. All planes will start from the beginning of the runway, so they'll have a long distance to take off, and if anything happens, they can stop in the middle if they have any issues. Small airports have only one runway, but bigger airports have more than one runway. And airplanes always take off against the wind. They take off and they land against the wind. If the wind is blowing from here, from up, the plane's going to take off from here. If the wind is blowing in this direction, then the plane is going to take off from there. Some airports have towers, and the towers have people up here in this glass room. I've been in many of them. And they have screens and binoculars, and they watch planes as they come close to the airport. And the pilots have to talk to them. They can't move without talking to them. They tell them go through this runway, go through this taxiway, turn right on this taxiway, and they give them directions on where to go to get to the runway, and then when they land, they tell them when they land, if they're first people to land, first airplane to land, if they have to wait for other airplanes, sometimes to land, they talk to the tower. And pilots and air traffic controllers, the people up here are called air traffic controllers, and the pilots and air traffic controllers, when they talk about letters, the taxiways have letter names. There'll be A taxiway, B taxiway, C taxiway. So to make it easier to understand, the pilots don't go by taxiway A, they go alpha. Instead of B, they say Bravo. Instead of C, they say Charlie. Instead of F, they say Foxtrot. That's how pilots talk. And hopefully, you'll hear them here in a minute when I play your video at the end. Another cool thing is the airports, they have rotating beacon at night. If you're flying at night in the dark and you want to find your airport, you look for this rotating beacon. For civil airports, okay, not military airports, the colors are green and white. So if you're flying, you see a flashing light, goes white and green and white and green, then you know you're going to the right airport. If it's white and red, then you know you can't land there because that's a military airport. There's different codes for different airports, different colors. But a lot of airports have that to make it easier for the pilots at night to find the airport before they land. And I'll show you, when we go to jump to an airport, I'll show you their rotating beacon. Also, airports have windsocks. They probably have more. Some of them have more than one windsock. And it helps the pilot just look and see where the wind is coming from. It always points to the direction of where they need to take off from. So if this is pointing to a runway, that means they need to take off from that runway. And that means the wind is coming from here. So it kind of like tells the pilot, okay, you need to take off from this direction. Those are winds.